Thank you for coming during lunch. My name's Charlie Leadbeater, and I am the author of this very lovely book, which you can buy downstairs, Innovation in Education, for which I have to thank very wholeheartedly the Qatar Foundation for enabling and commissioning, but also my many partners in writing it, Romain, the photographer, and Kate, our researcher, the publishers at Bloomsbury, and the designers, the fantastic designers, Dessine in Paris. But also, crucially, this book is based on case studies of 16 innovators in education. And the people we have to thank the most are them. Some of them are in the audience. And I was lucky enough in writing this to go and visit many of them and to spend time with them. And those were some of the best days of my writing career, going to see people like Martin and Carolyn in Toronto, Martin in Paraguay. And I thought what I would do is just quickly give you a brief overview of the main themes, ideas of the book, and then ask to come on stage Mushtaq Chapra, the founder of Citizens Foundation, Cecilia de Oliveira, the director of MIT's OpenCourseware, and Carolyn Acker, who's the founder, co-founder of Pathways to Education, and just have a quick discussion about their thoughts about how their projects are reflected in what the book says. So just very quickly, 6 people and 6 ideas, or 6 places and 6 ideas. This is the first person. This guy is called Komi Afinsu, and we met him at the amazing African Institute of Mathematical Sciences. When Komi writes a differential equation, his speciality is complex differential equations. When he writes a differential equation on a blackboard, it dances. It's like watching someone dance. Komi is one of 20 children in his family. He lives in Togo. He went to a school with virtually no textbooks. He went to a university with no computers, and he's a brilliant mathematician. One of the things that the African Institute of Mathematical Sciences does is something that generally education systems don't do, which is they spot talent. Education systems should be systems really for spotting, recognizing, developing talent, and often they can't. And one of the reasons they can't is that too often children just end up sat in rows like this. These children are lucky. They're in northern Uganda, and they're the recipients of an amazing scheme called Rewrite the Future, a Save the Children program, which Rewrite the Future started with 5 people in Save the Children who set out to improve the education of 8 million children in 5 years. How can 5 people improve the education of 8 million children? Well, actually, over 5 years, they improved the education of 10 million children, including getting 1.8 million into school for the first time in conflict zones. And they did it through an amazing process of raising money, but then crucially marrying that to innovative capacity to build schools, to develop schools in different ways. So some of the time it was by doing things outside school. In Afghanistan, 50% of schooling takes place in tents or in homes, not in schools. And in Uganda, they built new schools or redeveloped schools of the kind that you see here. When I spoke to the amazing woman who led this project, Tovi Wang, I asked her what she thought about it looking back, and her conclusion was this, really, that access is just the start, that quality matters as much as quantity, and that really the focus of that program had not been wrong, but it wasn't enough, and that the focus had been on getting people into school, and really the focus should have been on whether people were learning, and that getting people into school was no guarantee of their learning. So the person who then answered the question for me most articulately in many ways about what you should do and the way you should think about it is this woman, Vickylbert, founder of Escuela Nueva in Colombia. And Vicky's been working for almost 35 years on trying to reinvent from within education. And her mantra is that education is the best opportunity we have for equality of opportunity, but it won't deliver that unless we innovate and create new ways to learn. And the problem she started with was poor multi-grade single teacher schools in rural Colombia. 60 children from the age of 5 to 14, one teacher. Well, if you try and teach a group of 60 children across that age range in a traditional way, it won't work. And actually, multi-grade rural schools across the developing world generally produce poorer results as a result. So Vicky just devised, through a whole mixture of means, a new way to run schools, Escuela Nueva, the new school, which is based on the idea that if you can create a structure for children to collaborate in a structured way to help one another learn, that the teacher can facilitate but not instruct, then the school becomes much more manageable and productive. 35 years later, Escuela Nueva is used in, I don't know, 9, 10 Latin American countries, in Africa, in Vietnam. It's basically what Vickylbert has done is create a new software for schooling. She's reprogrammed existing institutions. She's a hacker, if you like. And what she says is we need better and different, not just more schooling. So just more of what we've got isn't going to be good enough if what we've got is dysfunctional. So this whole conference is based on this sort of schizophrenia that people want more education, but actually recognize that education is in many ways dysfunctional. And the solution is that we don't just need more, we need better and different. And Vicky is doing that. This guy who's sitting in the audience is Martin Burt, and he is a radical innovator because he started in a school, the San Francisco Farm School, just outside Asunción in Paraguay. It's not the center of educational innovation. It's not Harvard or Yale or the Institute of Education, but Martin, as with so many radical innovators, started in the margins. Most radical innovation will not start in the mainstream. It won't start with the establishment. It will start with people who operate in margins, who are finding new and radical ways to address really clear needs. And Martin's need was, well, how do you really educate people living in agricultural communities to learn in a way that will allow them to create their own business or run a farm more productively? And so at the San Francisco Farm School, what Martin has done is created a way for children to earn a living by growing food and providing services, and then they employ the teachers. So this is a school where the children employ the teachers. So it's a radical inversion of the traditional model. Time and again, new ideas come from mavericks, and it was Mushtaq Chapra, Citizens Foundation, who told me over the phone, I remember, that if he had not been mad, he wouldn't have got it done. And it takes a sort of streak of madness to be able to sort of stand out against the establishment. One of the other things that's worth pointing out is that all the innovators I talked to, I asked them where they got the most skepticism from, who had posed the most resistance to their ideas. Time and again, they said it was educationalists. It was educationalists, the people who knew most about education, who told them, you can't do it, it won't work, it's wrong, it's not going to happen. So this is a very striking insight. So this woman is in a mosque in Amman, and she's part of a project created by a remarkable woman called Rana Dajani, called We Love Reading. And the reason that this is important is that Rana's program, which is still quite small, nevertheless exemplifies the methods used by these innovators to take their ideas from the starting point and up to a much higher scale. Because what Rana has done is create a movement, really, in Jordan around reading. And the movement is based around training mothers to run reading groups in mosques. So the organization doesn't need an infrastructure. It borrows the rooms from the mosques. It doesn't need a workforce because it trains the mothers. And simply what it does is it orchestrates this network and brings it together and mobilizing a movement around reading, which is growing and growing. It's simple, it's effective, It's not complicated. It doesn't involve expensive technology. And so time and again, when I asked the innovators what was it that they were leading, they said they were leading networks and movements, not just organizations. And because they were leading movements, they were ideological innovators as well as service innovators. They were innovating values as well as services. And finally, this girl, we met, Nazreen, we met a great project, the founder of which is here, called Nani Kali. And Nani Kali is a really important example because it exemplifies one of the ways in which these innovators then try and make movements work with systems. So they come from outside systems, they operate more like movements, but they have to interact with government. Nani Kali is a very, in a sense, very simple program. How do you encourage girls to stay in school, girls from the poorest neighborhoods and backgrounds, where you provide them with uniform, you give them things which make them feel that going to school is rewarding, you provide them with support at school, but also crucially after school, that supports them into a system which will often seem alien, confusing, demotivating, boring, and will fill them with a sense of disappointment. And so how do you support girls from those backgrounds, and crucially their parents? Well, Nani Kali's got some of the answer. And so understanding the future of innovation, I think, in education will be about understanding what happens when movements that start outside innovation, social movements, meet these big systems. And all our innovators are attempting to do that. And so if you, in a word, at the end of the book, as I say, you can get it downstairs. At the end of the book, there is a kind of an agenda for action which looks at how we could raise more finance, how we could generate more ideas, how we could support entrepreneurs better. But the key message is that more isn't enough. You need more, better, and different. And unless we do more and different, we'll just deliver more disappointment. And the real danger is that in our pursuit of just doing more, spreading more schools, actually offering hope to people that education will solve their problems, actually we're just delivering them into disappointment. We're delivering them into systems that will fail them. And that's the real challenge.